Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is really going to be two. One is I had a dream and angry nations trying to destroy the dollar. First of all, before I get into talking about the dream, I want to say, my heart is to try to warn God's people about what God is about to do. I know that sounds funny. What? You want to tell us what God's about to do? Well, I think that based upon all of the prophecies, Dimitri Duduman and Henry Gruver, and all the things God has shown me these over 30 years walking with Him now, I think He is serious. He wants people to be clean, and He's disappointed with America, as we're supposed to be the nation that leads the rest of the nations to Christ, and instead they're following us down the road to death and destruction to the devil. Again, before I get into the dream, a couple more things I want to say. I know, I listen to the news. I like listening to Trump. I think, he encourages me. He makes me want to not he makes me want to not believe the things that I say on the Prophecy Club. He makes me want to not believe that all of these things that we know that are bad are coming. And frankly, I need some encouragement too. And I know Leslie keeps telling me, you got to encourage them. And I said, I am encouraging. I'm positive encouraging. I'm positive that America is the mystery Babylon, and I encourage people to stop sinning, repent, turn to Jesus. Yeah, I'm being a little funny there, but all the world right now, I think, is pretty positive, outside of obviously Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Gaza, Israel, and India and Pakistan. They're at war. But outside of them, a lot of the people are pretty encouraged, and I think it's because of Trump. We hear all of the Democrats moaning and groaning and complaining. He couldn't do anything right, okay, because they're of the devil. And if their servant, the devil, is not in charge, they're not happy, period. The one thing I want to say before I get into the dream is this. My heart is to try to tell you the truth, to bring you the truth, to warn you, to help you to get prepared. I don't want people falling away. I don't want them taking the mark. I don't want them deceived. And right now, the whole world seems to be very encouraged. And frankly, watching the news, I would be encouraged too. Frankly, since sometimes I need that encouragement too. But that's not what God is saying in this dream. What God is telling me in this dream, and there's not a whole lot to it, okay? It's not a big, long dream. But He's basically saying, don't believe them. Don't believe what's in the news. Don't believe all this positive. Don't think that you've missed this judgment. I'm still bringing judgment on America. That's the point of the whole dream. And I might add, that's the point of the whole program. I asked someone, we had church at the park yesterday, and after the sermon, I was sitting down, I was talking with several of the people, and I was sitting at the table with four of the guys. And I said, from time to time, I ask people, is there another ministry that's like Prophecy Club out there? And every time I ask that question, I always get the same answer. They'd say no. It was like in unison. They said, no, there's nothing like the Prophecy Club. And I don't understand that, because I read the King James Bible. I try to follow the King James Bible. I try to bring you truth as it's filtered through that. It's always got to line up with that. But I can't understand why Prophecy Club is so different, but it is very different. Okay, so now let me get into the dream. It's short, it's quick. But what it says to me, and I think what it'll say to you, is more important than what's in the dream. So Saturday night, and I did not wake up from this dream. And that normally is a confirmation it's of God. Only this dream has not gone away. It stayed with me constantly. So anyway, this was the dream. I dreamed that I walked into like a Target or a Walmart, one of those big superstores, where you could hold an automobile race inside the store. It's so big. I walked in there, and of course, all of the aisles were filled with products. All the shelves were stocked full of shelves, full of things that they're selling. In other words, a normal Walmart, a normal Target of today, that's what it looked like. And I got something and left. Then the second scene was I walked into the same Target or Walmart, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. And I think that's the point. It's not trying to say just one grocery store. It's trying to say all of them. But I walked back in, and now the whole place was empty. They had gone in and scraped up the tiles, which used to be white, scraped up the tiles off the floor, and now I'm walking in concrete. And in the back of the store, and I had to walk from the front all the way to the back. And of course, as you know, that's I almost need a golf cart to do that. It was a long walk. And the only merchandise they had in this great big store that was, I don't know, probably 30,000, 40,000 square feet was about the same amount of merchandise that a 7-Eleven has. And they had it all in one little area, and the rest of it was just concrete. And they were closing down. And I woke up from the dream. Now, and I was telling some of the guys at the church this too. So about 2 weeks ago, Leslie said, "You need a pink tie." Fine. Somebody once said, "Man, I like that shirt. Where'd you get the shirt?" I said, "It was hanging up in my closet." So I pretty much don't buy my clothes. If I buy last time I bought clothes, we wound up just giving them away because they were the wrong size. And so I always take Leslie with me. So anyway, she was taking me down to Dillard's to get a tie, a pink tie. And it was this color pink. She had to have this color pink because I don't know, she wanted to take pictures or something anyway. So we walked in there to the men's area, and it was the same 3 tables they had when I was there a couple of years ago when I bought some other ties. I bought a few shirts, and I bought 2 or 3 ties, I think it was. Only this time, before they were stacked 3 or 4 deep on this table. This time they were laid out like one tie, just kind of barely overlapping. And I would say that there's about 10% of the ties laid out this time as opposed to last time. And so I asked the guy, I said, "What happened to all your ties?" He said, "Well, I think they sent them all to the clearance house." Exactly what he said. So at that, it got me actually looking beyond that. When I was in high school, I used to work for Gibson's Discount Center. Probably never heard of it. But when we were low in stock, they would have me go in what they call face up the aisle. In other words, so if it wasn't full behind there, then I was to pull the box up front. They said we want it to look like everything is full and all faced up. In other words, it was to make it look good. Well, that's the way this Dillard's looked as I was walking through it the other day. It was all faced up. It looked good. I mean, like, for example, the men's suits hanging there. I noticed a couple of them. And there was this much space between each of the suits. In other words, they were all faced up. You could tell that their inventory was probably 10% of normal. Now, here's what I think the dream is saying. I think it's saying that places like Walmart and Target and Dillard's, all of those big box stores are going away. I don't think they're going away next year. I'm not convinced that they'll make it through this year, especially with this thing with China. If it doesn't heal really, really fast, a lot of those people get their products from China. So that's the first thing I want to say. I think the dream is saying, don't believe the news. Don't believe the positive things, if you could call Fox News saying something positive. Don't believe that the prophecies that I've given you, Stan, are on delay. Don't believe that they are not coming now. Don't accept the fact that everybody appears to be Trump is going to fix everything. Everybody's got diamonds in their eyes. I mean, even I said the day that Trump had won the election, I said it seemed like the sun was a little brighter. I think that Americans have been wanting some positive news. We're tired of being lied to through people like Biden, through our news. There's something in our heart that says, I know what you're saying is right. I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe it either. I want to believe some of the positive things. I want to think everything is going to be okay. But I think that's what God is saying. He's saying basically, Stan, that these box stores, but I don't even think it's just the box stores are going away. I think it's trying to say that the economy is about to fall. Aside from what you see, don't look at what you see. They faced it up. But the economy is about to fall. Now, let me get to the next point. Right now, these tariffs and Trump, I mean, we love him, but he is making a lot of enemies. Either you love him or hate him. With Reagan, everybody loved him. Even the Democrats loved Reagan, but even the Democrats don't like Trump. Either you love him or you hate him. There is no black and white. Excuse me, there's no gray. It's all black and white. Okay, now let me get to the point here. This was Friday. It says, the Republican-controlled Congress voted down President Trump's big, beautiful bill. I know, they've now passed it, but that's not the point. Moody's just downgraded the United States credit rating for the first time in history. That's the point. An unsustainable path for the U.S. federal debt and its resulting interest burden. In other words, it's saying in a very, very loud and very, very big way, the dollar or America or the financial system as we know it is crashing. It's like the music has stopped, and it may have stopped a couple of months ago, and a lot of people are rushing for the chairs, and unfortunately, there's not one for us. An unsustainable path. In other words, it's not just that they didn't approve the big, beautiful bill, because now that's been approved. That's not the point. The point is America's in trouble. I want to believe I want to believe positive. But I looked it up. The United States credit rating has been downgraded by Moody's from AAA down to AA1. That's these big air horns that they have a can, and it's really, really loud. That ought to be an air horn going off saying, we are in trouble. I want to believe that Trump can fix it. You want to believe Trump can fix it, but that's not what the dream was saying. The dream was warning me, don't think that these things aren't coming. Don't be deceived. Moody's notes that the U.S. debt to GDP ratio is on track to hit 134%. Okay, I don't understand a lot of this number stuff. But what I do understand when I read it slowly, and sometimes I have to read it a couple of times, frankly, it's saying, like with the air horn, you're in trouble. It's screaming with an air horn. I wish I had an air horn. Furthermore, deficit spending is now at World War II levels as a percentage of GDP. Credit rating downgrade from AAA to AAA1. Yes, the U.S. credit rating is downgraded from AAA. Yes. And as this other article says, because there's another article I read, I'm not going to get to today, but it said it's not being downgraded because of recent events. It's being downgraded over the path that the U.S. federal debt has taken over the last 20 years. And they finally just said, the chickens finally came home to roost, and we got to do something. Here's another article. China unloads more U.S. Treasuries. Okay, now I want you to look at the red line over here. This is just in the last few years. China has been, what are the U.S. Treasuries? Okay, so when China gets a lot of extra money, how does a nation put that extra money in savings? One of the ways they do it, of course, is gold and silver, but also putting them in U.S. Treasuries. Why? Because it's AAA rated. Why? Because basically America owns and controls the world. Used to be anyway. So when they're dumping treasuries, it's saying China thinks that America is in financial trouble. Do you think China knows more than Fox News? I think so. It goes on to say, China sold off an additional U.S. Treasury debt over this past weekend, bringing the total amount of U.S. debt that they hold now to $779 billion. China now holds less debt than the U.K. In other words, they're bailing out. Why are they bailing out? Because they think the dollar is about to crash. That's why they just downgraded a credit rating that has never happened in history. China unloaded approximately $100 billion of U.S. Treasury debt. It is to signal markets that the debt may be riskier. Markets show an increase in the interest rates for future bonds issued by the debtor nation, in other words, America. Now, see, what we do here at Prophecy Club is not just tell you the news. You can get the news a lot of places. What we're going to try to do is tell you from God's point of view what this is saying. Now, I could spend a whole hour on this. I'm not going to. I'm just going to make a couple of points, so don't get bogged down in the scriptures here with me. So in Deuteronomy 28, it lists, I think it's 13 verses on all the blessings. It says, if that nation will observe to do all of my commandments, these are the blessings I'm going to force on them. God forces the blessings. God forces the cursings. Then he says, if you will follow these, I'm going to open this good treasure, the heaven to give rain in the land of its due season. Okay, have we not seen strange storms and fires? And we haven't seen earthquakes, not big bad ones, not yet, but we may be seeing them in the next few months. Thou shalt not lend to many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Right now, America is the biggest borrowed, the biggest debtor nation in the world, perhaps even history. I'm going to make sure that you are the head, not the tail, and thou shalt be above only and shall not be beneath. Well, we're not above only right now. See, we have been above only, and it's like, how do I explain it? It's like somebody left the refrigerator door open, and all of the things that are supposed to be kept cold have been warm now for a couple of days. They just come down, back off vacation. They discovered the refrigerator door was open. Okay, so when did the stuff go bad? It went bad 2 or 3 days ago, but they just didn't know it. And that's kind of what's happened. The music stopped probably a couple of years ago, and all the other nations are racing to find a chair. And that chair is probably gold or silver, and some of the more uninformed ones were putting their money in bonds. But now, they're all rushing to get their own chair. Now let's move to the cursing side, because there's about 13 verses of blessings, but there's about 40 verses of cursings. See if these fit our nation right now. If you don't follow me, he says, if you don't hearken to my voice, the Lord, and observe to do all my commandments, here's what's going to happen. I'm just going to breeze through them. I'm going to curse your basket and store. What was the dream saying? That already Dillard's has 10% of its inventory, and there was like nobody working in there. Okay, and I'm going to guess that you've noticed it in the stores too, means our basket on our stores are cursed. You're going to be cursed when you come in, cursed when you go out. I'm going to make the pestilence cleave to you. Do you know what nation has the highest rate of just about every disease? Who is the sickest nation on the planet? America. I'm going to smite you with consumption, fear, inflammation, extra burning. We got all kinds of problems. We got so many sick people here, we don't even have time to fix them all. Heaven is over your head is going to be brass. The earth is under you be iron. We have floods when we don't need it to flood. We have droughts when we need it to rain. We have tornadoes and hurricanes. We have all kinds. The last 2 nights in a row, I'm outside looking up into the air, sending out the ministering, protecting, guardian, and warrior angels to stop the scalar wave attack. All of those lightnings that they say are happening out there's not lightning. A scalar wave. Okay? We are being attacked by evil people. Well, why? Because God is allowing it. You might even say he's causing it. The stranger that is within you should get above you. Okay? Look at who has the smartest children. I was invited to go see my one of my grandchildren get an award at a middle school a week ago. And I walked in, and there was Indians, Pakistani, Chinese, but there was very few what you would call, what I grew up, I don't know another way to say it, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And I'm not talking about the color of skin, but the smartest ones there were not the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant children. They were the other ones. When I grew up, they weren't even in the schools. They weren't here. So the stranger that is within me is now having the smartest children. They're making the most money. They get the best jobs. Let's go on to verse 57. Toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children, this is the woman that has children, that she is going to eat them for want of secretly in the siege. In other words, we won't have enough food to eat. We wind up eating our children. Sad to say, but we have the food to eat, but what's in it is a problem. The Lord make the plagues wonderful, the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, long continuous, sore sicknesses, long continuous. He will bring on the diseases of Egypt, every sickness, every plague. The Lord rejoiced over you for good and to multiply you. Now he will rejoice of you to destroy you and bring you to naught. Now, with that in mind, let me show you a couple other articles. Threat of sanctions if Russia refuses a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine will backfire. Do you remember this? This is May 10th. Cause global debt spiral. So Russia is in a position to throw America into a financial spiral. China is in a position to throw America into a spiral. So right now, the nations of the earth are angry at America. It goes on to say when the yield of the Treasuries hits above 5%, it will mathematically trigger an unstoppable global debt spiral. In other words, the dollar becomes worthless. Remember, Coverstone was told down a third, and then Shane Warren was told worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. That's our American dollar. Now, let me tie this together. As you look at this, those 6 prophecies, only one has come to pass, but unfortunately it confirms the other ones. We have not seen Israel give the Palestinians a state. We have not seen oil discovered in Israel. I'm talking about massive amounts of oil. We have not seen Israel and America go against most of the Arab world, not yet. But all of these are coming. Now let's jump to the next one. Omar ushers in Palestinian state. We have not seen that. Matter of fact, we haven't seen any of these yet. But I think what the dream is trying to say is, Stan, don't lose heart. Don't quit. Don't give up. I want you to tell the people they shouldn't quit either. They don't start thinking all of this stuff is gone. Don't start thinking it's not coming now. I think that's the main thing he's trying to say. It is still coming. It is on the way. I think he showed me that the next thing is empty shelves. And that's the reason I put the empty shelves behind me today. I think the next thing we're about to see. Remember, he told me massive arrests, But I didn't get the feeling that that was coming immediately. Yeah, I kind of hope, kind of like everybody does. You know, we want to see Nancy Pelosi and other ones see a little justice. I think he's saying that the next thing is empty shelves. Now, what should you do about that? Well, of course, I'm going to send you to josephkitchen.com. I'm going to send you to 800-200 gold, where you can get yourself some gold and silver. You can't eat gold and silver, but at the same time, there's a time and a place for it. You can't walk onto a plane with two big 5-gallon buckets of wheat either. But that gold or silver might buy your safety and your family's safety to another country. It might save your life. I don't know. But I don't know what's coming. But I think that the dream was saying, don't think it's not coming. I think the dream was for me to tell you my heart. One is I'm trying to bring you truth. I'm trying to keep my head up. I'm trying not to get down and depressed. And frankly, with all of this stuff that I put out, sometimes it's hard. Leslie's got here the last few years where she watches these game shows. I said, you realize, honey, that's what old people do. They watch those game shows. I don't tell her my opinion, but my opinion, the reason she's watching them is because it's something to get her mind off of all of the bad things that are happening out there. I think it's something to encourage her. So I do want to encourage you. God told me, you tell him, I will never leave them nor forsake them. I'm going to meet the devil. Inch for inch, step for step, pound for pound. Everything he does, I'm going to meet him. I'm convinced he's going to take care of us. I'm absolutely convinced of that. But at the same time, he wants to let us know what's coming. It's kind of like if you know you're about to get punched in the nose, it's a whole lot better than not even seeing it coming. If you know you're about to get in a financial bind, at least it doesn't hurt as much when you know it's coming. And I think that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, tell them that the next big thing they're about to see is empty stores. Prepare, get prepared for that. And thank you for continuing to support us so I don't have to get on here and say, okay, we're in a financial jam. That happens because you continue to support us without me always begging for help. Help, help, help. You know, I prefer to not say that. So anyway, thank you. I love all of you very, very much. And you may notice there weren't any promos until now I'm done talking, and for another minute or so, they'll put on some promos. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings. Doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice.